Okay, all right, let's learn. Let's learn a little bit. So this week's Parshat Lech Lecha begins, V'yomer Hashem el Avram. Hashem said to Avram, Lech Lecha mi'artzecha. Go from your land, mi'moladecha, from the place of your birth, mi'beis avicha, from your father's house, el ha'aretz asher areka, to the land that I will show you. That's how it begins. The first contact between Hashem and a Jew, these words, Lech Lecha mi'artzecha, go from your land, from your birthplace, from your father's home. So the thing is, we have to understand, if this is the first statement said by Hashem to a Jew, Avram was the first Jew, the first statement said by Hashem to a Jew, the first mission that he commands a Jew to accomplish, to go from your land, from your birthplace, from your father's house to the land that I will show you. Obviously, it's a message to each and every Jew for all generations. So the question is, what is it telling each and every one of us? What does it mean for us to go from our land, from our father's house, from our birthplace, and so on, to go to the land that I will show you? Because again, every single word of Torah is forever. And especially this, which is the first statement of Hashem to a Jew, it's obviously for everybody. So I want to talk about something tonight, which is it's definitely an interesting topic, but it's somewhat of a difficult inyan to really wrap our brains around. But we'll see. It's something very, very relevant, very important for us to hear. Listen to this Gemara in Brachos. The Gemara says the following story in Brachos on Daf Lamed Daled and Beis. The Gemara says the following. The Gemara says like this: Ma'aseh Reb Chanina ben Dosa. There was a story with Reb Chanina ben Dosa. The Gemara says that Sheholach Lilmod Torah Itz Reb Yochanan ben Zakkai. Reb Chanina ben Dosa went to go learn Torah under Reb Yochanan ben Zakkai. Reb Yochanan ben Zakkai was the Rebbe, and Reb Chanina ben Dosa was the Talmud.
Just 1 second. We're learning in this chus that there's a little baby. His name is Aryeh Lev ben Einat Hadassah Shel Refuah Shlema.
Also Yaakov Chanach ben Rivka.
Ben Rivka Shel Refuah Shlema. And our friend's grandmother, what was her name? Miriam Bas Moshe Shed Neshama Shaban William.
Okay, so Reb Chanina ben Dosa was learning Torah by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. And the Gemara says like this: V'chola b'nai shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. And the son of the Rebbe, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, his son became sick. So Amar Lai, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the Rebbe, said to the student Reb Chanina ben Dosa, Chanina b'ni, Chanina my son, bakish olav rachman. Daven for my son, daven for my child that he should be healed. V'yicheni, and he'll live. So what did Reb Chanina ben Dosa, the student, do? So Aniach Raisha ben Breichav, he bent over his head in between his knees. He bowed down, ubakish olav rachman v'chaya, and he davened and the sun lived. Miraculous. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the Rebbe, said, seeing that his student accomplished with his davening, if I did that all day long, if I daven like Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa all day long, they wouldn't pay attention to me. It's Dafka Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, the student, that had that power of tefillah. So Amr Lai Ishtai, so his wife, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's wife, asked him, what, your student Chanina ben Dosa is greater than you? How's it possible? So Amr Allah, so he answered to his wife, Lav, that's not what I mean. The difference between me and my student is as follows: that Reb Chanina ben Dosa, my student, is comparable to a servant, to a slave in the palace. The slave, the guy who mops the floors, goes in and out of the king's presence at will. He constantly goes in and out from the king's presence. But I, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, I'm on a higher level. I'm kisar l'fnei melech. I'm like a general by the king's palace. That the general doesn't go in and out. The general is technically a higher position, but there's a certain level of distance that the general comes when the king calls him. He doesn't go in and out, as opposed to the janitor of the palace, that even though he's lower, but he constantly goes in and out. So this Gemara seems to be telling us something very interesting, very unbelievable. That when it comes to the power of tefillah, Davka, someone who holds himself to be on a lower level, Davka has more strength in davening. See an unbelievable thing. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, who, in relation to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, is looked at as someone who is on a lower level in Torah and understanding. However, Davka, because of that, he seems to have a stronger power of davening. Seems to have a stronger power of tefillah. So the question is, what does it mean? How do we understand this? What does this mean that Davka, someone who's on a lower level, has a tremendous strength in tefillah? Is there extra chairs?
Yeah, let's pull out some more chairs here.
Yeah.
Hang on 1 second. Let me get some Dolby's room. Anybody sing on double chairs?
So this is the question we have to understand. What is it about davening that seems to be stronger by someone who's on a lower level? So listen to what Reb Tzaddik says in the following. Rav one of the great Hasidic masters, he wrote many svarim. So one of the svarim that he wrote is something called Rasisei Laila. So he writes the following thing. Listen to this. He says, "B'Torah, when it comes to learning, says Rav Tzadok, Hamula b'chachmasa yosem mechaver, someone who's more intelligent, someone who's wiser, someone who knows more than his friend, who hagadol, he's the greater one. When it comes to learning, the one who knows more is better. Masha'ein came b'tefillah, says Rav Tzadok, it's the opposite when it comes to davening. Adrab, it's the exact opposite. Hamadregas, a person who has the greater power of davening, who has the greater potential to cause great events in Shemaim through his davening, Heim kafi hachasaron. It's dafka those that see in themselves weakness, dafka those that see in themselves diminished, problems and cracks. Dafka those people that see in themselves chasronos, those are the ones that have the greater power of tefillah. He says, that it says in the Zohar, tefillah la'ani dema'at v'kol tzelusin, that it's dafka the tefillah of a poor person that contains within it all powers of tefillah. Ukamasha Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai David V'sar, and that's the explanation of this Gemara. It's dafka someone who looks at himself and sees in himself his diminished, his shortcomings, his chasronos, his problems. The lower the person is, the more potential he has to daven. He says, why? He says, Kim kol mishu yoser chaser, because anybody who's more deficient, the more a person is deficient, and the more the person is lacking, v'nitzrach b'yoser, and the more he needs to be helped by Hashem, who yachal lifel b'tfilas, so he can accomplish more in his davening. Ki tfilas yoser ma'um kadli, because his davening comes from a deeper part of his heart. Someone who has everything going for him doesn't find within him necessarily the strength to dig down unbelievably deep into his own heart and to daven. It's dafka someone who doesn't have. Dafka someone who sees in himself a lacking of madregas, doesn't see that he's living maybe the way he should be. It's dafka that person that has that quality, that strength of davening. He says, V'ikar hatfilu mitzad hachasaron, because what is davening? Davening is recognizing that you're missing, recognizing that you're deficient, umavakesh hashlomas Hashem yisbarach, and davening and begging that Hashem should perfect you and raise you up. So it's dafka someone who sees in himself deficiencies, dafka someone who is deficient, who finds himself on a lower level. That's dafka the person that has the most powerful strength of davening. That's what Tzaddik says. It's an unbelievable thing. He says, "Ve'etzel Hashem Yisbarach," goes in relation to Hashem. Ein shem chiluk ben gadol l'katan. Everybody's the same in relation to Hashem. Who's greater than who? When you're talking directly to Hashem. From our perspective, there seems to be people that are on a higher level. This one knows more. This one has better midos. But when it comes to Hashem, everybody's the same in relation to Hashem Himself. He says, and he goes on to explain, Ogafi gadol hachasaron, to the extent that you're deficient, to the extent that you're low, if you recognize that, umavakish ma'Hashem yisbarach she'yazrenu, and you daven and you hope for Hashem to help you, al zeh harei udovek al-yidei b'Hashem yisbarach ba'atzmai, then through the deficiency itself, that's causing you to connect to Hashem through davening. What Rabbi Tzadok is telling us is an unbelievable thing. He's saying that dafka, when a Jew feels that he's falling in unbelievable ways, that he finds himself mamish on such a bottom rung, mamish a low level, a Jew should not despair and say that compared to that tzaddik and that Talmud Chacham, I'm nothing. A person should realize that it's dafka because you find yourself in such low places, dafka because you find deficiencies in yourself. That's an unbelievable simon that you have an unbelievable potential for davening. Because it's dafka when you're low, that's dafka the time where a person is able to draw deep down within himself to find a way to turn to Hashem in simplicity and honesty. That's what davening is. That's what davening is. And he says, where does a Jew get that strength from? To always be able to reconnect, to always be able to become one with Hashem, to serve Hashem, to become connected to Him through davening, even if he falls to the lowest places. So says Tzaddik, man rakaman diu mishar shav giza kadisha Yisrael. Only someone who is connected to that root called the Jewish people. If you're a Jew, if you were born or you converted to the Jewish people, if you are part of the children of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, asher chelek Hashem amai, that Hashem is the portion of the Jewish people, we are connected to Hashem through and through in our DNA. It's literally in our DNA. It's impossible for a Jew to be completely severed from that attachment. It's impossible. He says, even a Jew who was captured when he was an infant and he was raised as a non-Jew. He says, even such a person, once he's told in a healthy way that there's such a thing as a God in heaven, and he's told a little bit about the Torah, says Tzaddik, it's only natural that he will slowly find his way back, as we see in our times. Automatically that will awaken within him a passionate tefillah. Maybe it's subconscious, maybe it's not right away on his lips, but it's in the heart. There's a crying from the heart that takes place in a Jew because of the very fact that he's a Jew. If you are born from Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, you cannot sever that connection. And the lower you find yourself, the lower, pits of this world a Jew finds himself, that's all the more reason for him to scream. That's all the more reason for him to be able to find within himself the strength to return to Hashem and davening. And that's something that a tzaddik might not necessarily be able to tap into. That's what Yochanan ben Zakkai was saying, that if I daven like that all day long, it wouldn't have the same effect, because even though obviously, I daven and I see in myself some deficiencies, but in comparison to my student, Rav Chanina ben Dosa, who sees in himself so much deficiencies, I cannot open that part of my heart like my student can. This is what we see, that Davka people, a person should not think that if you're on a low level, so I can't learn, I can't do mitzvahs, I can't daven, everything is fallen. A person has to remember that it's the exact opposite. A Davka person who's most of the day involved in secular things. It's the person who's most of the day involved in school or parnas or whatever it might be. It's those people specifically that have an unbelievable power of davening. Now, the Svarim compared to the Teva of last week's Parsha, that the more water, what happened with the Teva, right? We know that the word Teva, besides being an ark, like a boat, it also means a word. And the Baal Shem Tov taught that the Teva represents words of davening. What happened with the Teva, with the ark of Noach? The more water, and the more waters of the Mabul that descended on the earth, the higher the Teva was lifted up. Said the Baal Shem Tov, that's exactly what happens with the words of davening. The more water, the more confusion, the more gashmis a person finds himself being drenched in this world, davka means that he has the greatest potential for his words of davening to be raised. It's an unbelievable thing, and it's davka because a Jew is unbelievably connected to Hashem in a way that cannot be severed. In this week's Parsha, Avram Avinu at the end is given the mitzvah of Milah. Bris Milah. What's Bris Milah? Bris Milah is a sign that you're a Jew, right? Bris Milah means that you are a descendant of Avram Avinu. When do we give a Jewish boy a bris? When he's 8 days old. Before he doesn't know anything. Before he doesn't know to distinguish between good and evil. Why? Why is that? Why don't we wait till he's bar mitzvah or something, right? Wait till he's older, where he could distinguish between good and evil, where he could choose to become a good Jew. Then we should give him a bris. Why do we give a bris dafka to an infant that doesn't know anything? The answer is, the Svarim say, because that's the point. The point is to imprint on this boy that it doesn't matter what you choose. It doesn't matter how little amount of understanding you have. You could literally be like a 8-year-old baby that doesn't know its head from its feet. It doesn't matter. The fact that you were born to the family of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov means that you're connected to Hashem, and you have a bris on you. And the farther you fall, all the more reason for you to be able to find within yourself the strength to daven properly and to return to Hashem. Now listen to this, and this is stavka, something that a Jew has the ability to understand. Someone who's unfortunately not from the family of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, it's not like that. They can't imagine the unbelievable strength of the Jewish soul to be able to climb its way out of even the lowest places. Let me read you another Gemara Nida. Listen to this. We know Bilam, right? Bilam Harasha. Bilam, the one in the desert that tried to curse the Jewish people. He was a very bad guy. Listen to this Gemara Nida. It's in Daf Lamed Aleph. The Gemara says like this. Darash Rabavo. Rabavo said the following. He darshan the following thing. Ma'idich, what is the meaning that the pasuk says in Chumash that Mi mana offer Yaakov umisbar es roiva Yisrael, that Hashem counts the dust of Yaakov, He counts the Jewish people, and He counts Rova Yisrael, the amount he counts the amount of times a husband and wife in holiness live together. It's a very strange phenomenon. So says Rabavo Malamed. This pasuk tells you Shakadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev v'Soipers Rivosem Shel Yisrael, that Hashem literally counts the amount of times a husband and wife are together in holiness by the Jewish people, because He's waiting and He's hoping Masai Tove Tipa Shat Tzadik Noitzim, and He's waiting for a tzaddik to be born. That's what the Gemara says. That Hashem focuses on that, even though it's very physical, and by the non-Jewish world, that's a very, very low pit that a person could fall into, that area of life. But Hashem pays attention to it when it comes to the Jewish people, because He's waiting for a tzaddik to be born. Says the Gemara, and the Gemara says like this: Va'al davar zeh, and it was on this idea that Hashem finds holiness even in this most physical act by the Jewish people. Nismas eina shel Bilam Harasha. Bilam Harasha became blind when he heard about this idea. He says Omar, because Bilam couldn't understand this. He said, Mishu tar v'kadosh, Hashem who's holy and pure, u'masharasav tar v'kadoshim, and his servants, the malachim, are pure and holy. Yatis b'davar zeh, he should pay attention to such a physical thing? Miyad nismis einai, so immediately when he questioned such a thing, he became blind. Dichsiv, as the pasuk says in regards to Bilam, Nu'um hagever shesum ha'ayin, that so says the Bilam talking, so says the person whose eyes are shut. That's what the Gemara says. So what does this mean? So Rav Tzadok says what this Gemara is telling us. What does it mean that Bilam became blind? Because Bilam did not understand that Dafka in the most physical places, Dafka in that aspect of life which seems to be the most physical, where a Jew could literally lose himself, right? Where it's possible for a Jew to be lost. Dafka there's an unbelievable holiness because you're a part of the family of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And the clarity, the light, the spiritual, the light of that act, even though it seems very physical, is blinding to Bilam. That's what blinded him. Because the unbelievable spirituality that's found even in that place blinded Bilam. He wasn't able to tolerate it. It was overwhelming for his senses. This is what tefillah is. Tefillah means that a Jew is able to go down and to be in situations where he doesn't want to be in necessarily. And he could see in himself chesroinus and deficiencies and problems. And it doesn't make a difference. All the more so. All the more problems that a person sees in himself just gives him more power in davening. The waters of the Mabul just raising up the teva itself. And it's coming from the fact that we're from the family of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That's what it means. That's what it means to be a Jew. Being a Jew means that we have a bris when we're 8 days old to tell us. And it's proclaiming to the rest of the world that before we understand anything, we're connected to Hashem. And there's nothing that could sever that. And all the more garbage and all the more physical life that is piled upon us, it just adds to the unbelievable potential that we have in davening. But the truth is, it's more than that. Not only does physical life not stand in the way of davening, and not only does it give us greater strength to daven, but it's Hashem, in His infinite wisdom, created the world in such a way where it's dafka where in order to reach any level, a person has to go through this first. Look at the Jewish people's history. If you think about it, before we reached any great level, before we accomplished anything, we had to read the first. Look at Jewish history. Before to receive the Torah, what did we have to go through to receive the Torah? We had to go to Mitzrayim. What happened in order for us to have a Mishkan in the desert? We had to sin with the golden calf. What had to happen before we entered Eretz Yisrael? There had to be a sin of the spies. What had to happen before the Beis Hamikdash was built? The Mishkan of Shiloh had to be destroyed. The Aron had to be captured, as it said in Navi and Shmuel. Every single great accomplishment of the Jewish people, always, by very definition, had a Yerid in the beginning. Why is that? Listen to what Rav Tzadok says as follows. Listen to this. Listen. This is what he says, and this is the reality. He writes as follows: Haseder sheyasar Hashem yisbarach b'bria. The order of the world, the reality of the world is as follows: the bereishach hashucha, that first there's darkness, v'hadu nahar, and then there's light. There is no such thing as a person just going into madregas without having you read this first. That's not the way that the world works. Kachu b'kol yemais olam. That's true in all history. All of Jewish history is like this. Ein lecha shum ar mizgala. There is no light that's revealed to the Jewish people. Only through darkness that came first. And he goes over the examples. Matan Torah had Yitzias, had Mitzrayim first, and so on and so forth. He goes on and he says, and so too, listen, if you think about in Jewish history, think about when was Talmud Bavli created? When was Talmud Bavli, the body of halacha that we rely on, that without it we would be lost? When was it created? Dafka after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Dafka after the Jewish people went into Golus. There's no greater, when the Gra and the Baal Shem Tov, when did these luminaries come to the world to give us chiyas? After Shabtai Tzvi, after Tachvatat. It's dafka the way the world is. Eretz Yisrael is given to us. Without getting into politics. L'maisa, you could go to Eretz Yisrael, you could down by the Kotel. That's an unbelievable thing. When did that happen? Dafka after the Holocaust. That's a running theme throughout Jewish history. And not only is it true with the Jewish people, but it's true with each and every one of us. It's impossible for any of us to reach anything without having you read the first. That's just real. We could try to we have to try to fight it as much as we can. We have to maintain our service of Hashem. And Yerida doesn't mean you're not going to keep Shabbos anymore. That's not what Yerida means. Yerida just means that you're not necessarily going to feel like keeping Shabbos as much as you used to sometimes. And that's a reality that a Jew has to recognize. And not always are things going smoothly. But so why is this though? But why is it that Dafka, in order to have a great aliyah, to have a madreg, an accomplishment, an unbelievable thing, you have to have some sort of darkness first? The answer is because Hashem wants you to daven. That's why. It's as simple as that. Because the reason is because in order to get to that high point, you had to have the reader first in order to find it within yourself the strength of davening to get you to that high point. It's not that you weren't going to get there without having the Yerida, because it was through the Yerida, through the darkness, it gave you that feeling of emptiness, that gave you that feeling of chisaron, of deficiency, which opened your heart to daven. And it's dafka because you daven that you accomplished that you got to the next step of an aliyah. That's the reason why Hashem wants us to go through these things. Think about it. The Jewish people, we count the calendar to the moon, right? The Jewish people are compared to the moon. We count our years are based on the moon. Why is that? Because Rav Tzadok explains, a person doesn't remain in the same state constantly. The sun doesn't change. The sun doesn't grow, it doesn't shrink to our view. The sun is constant. The moon, however, from our perspective, seems to grow and seems to get smaller. That anybody who tries to serve Hashem properly knows that you can't stay in one spot. It doesn't work. You can have ups and downs. And this is because that's the reality. And that's what it means that Hashem made the moon small. That there's such a thing that we see the moon constantly getting big, and then it gets small, and then it gets big, and then it gets small. That's the story of the Jewish people. And a person shouldn't despair and think that, that I don't want this whole thing. Why should I have to suffer? Why should I have to go through periods of time where I don't feel like being a Jew, where I don't feel like davening, where I don't feel like waking up in the morning and putting on tefillin? A Jew has to remember that Hashem puts you in such places in order for you to daven, in order for you to be able to seek Him in a deeper way. And then when you seek Him, when you daven in a deeper way, when you connect to Hashem in that deeper place, when the teva is lifted up through the waters of the Mabul, it's dafka then to be able to reach the next level. It was because we had Mitzrayim that we received the Torah next. It was because there was a Chet Egel that we then were able to receive the Mishkan. Because if we didn't go through that period of the sin of the golden calf, if we didn't go through Mitzrayim, we would be like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. We wouldn't be able to dig down and to daven to give a refuah shlema to his son. It was Davka Yochanan ben Dosa who saw in himself deficiencies that was able to do that. That's what it means to be a Jew. What it means to be a Jew is to be able to remember that at all times, not only is the physical world not a stumbling block for us, but it's dafka there in order to enhance our connection to Hashem, in order for us to be able to find within ourselves the strength to attach ourselves to Hashem through davening in an unbelievable way. That's what it's there for. That's what it's there for. There's a story they say with Rabbi. It was a big Hasidic Rebbe. His name was Rabbi Avram Shlomo from Nadvarna. That was the name of the city that he was from. Avram Shlomo from Nadvarna. And it was known, the legend goes, that his davening was exceedingly long. Exceedingly long. They say that his shacharis went all the way till late afternoon. And for example, on Shabbos morning, his davening would go all the way to mincha time, and he would start eating the morning meal by tzeis, you know what I mean? By when everybody else is davening Ma'ariv. And obviously the Zmanim were messed up, but that was his custom. Unbelievably long davening. So they once asked him, why is it that you daven for such a long time? Other tzaddikim, we don't find davening crazy like that. They daven a longer shmoneh. This one's a little bit longer, this one's a little bit less. But the daven mamish a whole day, we don't find. So he said, I'll give you the explanation for why I daven for such a long time. I'll tell you why. It's comparable to bread. He said, let's say you have a rich guy and a poor guy. They both eat bread by their meals. But what's the difference between when a rich person eats bread and when a poor person eats bread? So he said, when a rich person eats bread, he eats bread, but the whole meal is not bread. He has meat with it, he has chicken, he has salads, there's other things to go along with the bread. So at the end of the day, he eats bread, but not a lot, because he has other filler also. But when it comes to a poor person, all he has is bread. So he said, other tzaddikim, they have Torah, they have Chesed, they have Madregas, they have Yiras Shamayim, they have all these things. So they have to daven as well. Fine, but they have all these other things to rely on. They don't have to spend their entire time davening. But me, I have nothing but bread. I have nothing but davening, because everything else, I don't have Torah, I don't have understanding, I have nothing. So all I have is davening, and that's like an ani, his entire meal is bread. That's what it means to daven. This person, I'm sure, was a Talmid Chacham, I'm sure he was a great tzaddik, but the perspective of davening has to come from that place, to look in yourself and to see nothing at the time of davening, and to only be, and to want to just to attach oneself to Hashem. That's what it's all about. That's what davening is. That's what davening is. So we go back to Parshat Lech Lecha. So Hashem was telling Avram Avinu, go from your father's house, from your land, from your birthplace, from your father's house to the land that I will show you. What does that mean? So the question we asked in the beginning was, what is that? How is that relatable to us? What message is that sending to the Jewish people nowadays, to each and every one of us? So listen to what Rabbi Tzadok says in Sefer Pri Tzadik on Chumash. Listen to this. He writes the following. What does it mean? Hashem said, Lech Lecha, go for yourself, to the land that I will show you, from your land, from your birthplace, from your father's home. What does it mean from? Simply means leave there and go somewhere else, right? It says, you know what it means? He says as follows, Acha Inyan. The explanation is that Hashem was telling him that Lech Lecha, what does it mean to go to Eretz? So what does that mean? He says, La'asakna garmach, go become who you have to become. Go fix yourself. Go become a real Jew. Go become a servant of Hashem. La'asakna darga dilach, go fix your madrega. Go become a full Jew. V'hainu, what does that mean? Sha'av shenoiled miterach, it means, how do you become a full Jew? How do you become a servant of Hashem? Mei artzecha, because of your land, because of your father's home, because of your birthplace. Hainu, sha'av sheno miterach, that even though you were born to Terach, the father of Avram, was an idol worshiper, right? He was he built idols. Even though you were born from Terach, shahaya ovid avodah, who served idols, and you come from a place, your father's home, your birthplace. These are places that are filled with idolatry. Lo yipachim means that don't be scared of it. Don't deny your past. Don't be ashamed of it. Sha'adra, because it's the exact opposite. Lech Lecha, how do you become a full Jew? Mei artzecha. It's because of your history, because of your background, because of the things that you've gone through, because of the waters of the Mabul that will give you the power of to Lech Lecha. From that itself, so you will be able to eventually reach your level to where you have to become because of your history, because of your personal background. This is the same thing as Jewish people in Golus. The pasuk says at the end of Chumash, in regards to our generation, that dafka after you're in Golus for so many years, after you're spread to all four corners of this world, from there, dafka, from those places you'll be able to daven to Hashem properly, and you'll reach it, and you'll find Hashem. And that's after after you're spread amongst the world. After you're spread amongst the nations of the world, that's dafka the place that you'll be able to find the ability to daven properly. And dafka after years of Golus and after terrible problems in Golus, we'll be able to come to Mashiach and to come to Eretz Yisrael because of the things that we've gone through. A person should never be ashamed of who he is. Avram Avinu wasn't ashamed. And Hashem was telling him not to be ashamed. Hashem was telling him that you're going to become a tzaddik, you're going to become the beginning of the Jewish people, dafka because of where you come from. And you're going to find within yourself the strength to use your past as a springboard to become a good Jew. That's what Hashem was telling him. What it means is, or Rav Tzadok goes on to explain in other places, that there's a famous teaching that everybody knows, that every single, there's 600,000 Jewish souls of the Jewish people, right? And the 600,000 letters to the Torah, right? Which means that every single Jew has a certain portion in Torah. You know what Rav Tzadok says? That's true. Every single Jew has a certain portion in Torah, but the same is also true, that every single Jew has a certain portion in tefillah as well. Because every single Jew has a certain measure of aliyahs and yeridus. Every single one of us was put in this world predestined to go through good times and go through negative times. Every single one of us has what to accomplish in Torah, in that parts of our life where everything is good, and every single one of us has a mission to accomplish in tefillah, to daven to Hashem properly and to accomplish something in that world. When the Jewish people were counted in the desert a number of times, right? We were counted in the desert a number of times. Who were the ones that counted us? So the pasuk says, who counted us? Who counted each and every Jew? Moshe and Aaron. Yeah, Moshe and Aaron. The two brothers, Moshe and Aaron. You know what that means? Moshe Rabbeinu represents Torah, right? Moshe Rabbeinu was the one that gave us the Torah from heaven. Moshe Rabbeinu was Torah. That when he counted every Jew, he was revealing to every Jew that you have a portion in Torah. You have a portion of wisdom that has to be brought out in this world. But Aaron was also counting every Jew. What is Aaron? Aaron was the one that served in the Beis HaMikdash. He was the Kohen Gadol. What's the Beis HaMikdash is tefillah, right? Karbonos and tefillah, it's all the same thing. When Aaron and Kohen counted each, that same Jew who has a portion in Torah also has a portion in tefillah. And that's not ancient history. The pasuk says, it's an unbelievable thing. The pasuk says in Yirmiyah Hanavi, Oy tavarna hatzayin ayidei moina, that Oy tavarna, in the future when Mashiach comes, we're going to be counted again. We're going to be counted again the same way that we were counted back in the desert. That just like in the desert we were revealed that every single Jew has what to accomplish in both worlds of Torah and tefillah, so too it's going to be when Mashiach comes, it's going to be revealed how that we did accomplish our goals in the world of Torah and tefillah. This is what a Jew has to remember. Lech Lecha mi'artzecha means the message of Hashem to Avram Avinu, which has to be heard in our generation, is that you have to become Lech Lecha. A person has to become who he has to become, has to fulfill his potential as a Jew. Davka me'artzecha, Davka using his history, using his family, using where he comes from as a springboard to grow. Not to reject it, not to become someone different, not to be ashamed of who we are. We use that as a springboard to become a tzaddik. That's what it means. That's what it means to be a Jew. And when Mashiach comes, it's going to be revealed that each and every one of us has that within us and became who we are going to become because of our personal background. The person never, chas v'shalom, for a Jew to be ashamed of who he is. That's the message of Avram Avinu. And when Mashiach comes again, like I said, we'll be counted and that will be revealed. Let me end off with it's a teaching from the Rizhiner. Rabbi Yisrael Rajin was a great Hasidic master. He said the following. He said, a person could learn a lot about davening and learn a lot about these things. And every once in a while, maybe you feel it. Maybe when a person davens, you feel some emotion, you feel things going well. But the vast majority of times, this is all nice, but the vast majority of times when you daven Shemona Esrei, I don't know, you're just saying the words. You're not really feeling anything. Not really feeling. You know you should, but you're not really feeling much. So a person finds it hard to continue to daven. So the Rizhiner said, I'll tell you the following story. There was once a town, and in this town, this town for somehow was a civilized town, but they didn't have any watches. No one had a clock. No one had any watch. They were using the sun, which is inaccurate. They didn't have any watches. So until one rich guy, came to the town and realized that no one has any watches. So he gave everybody a watch. He made he built a watchtower, also a clock, whatever, in the tower. Now they had a watch. The problem is the rich guy left. There was no one to maintain the watches. So over time the watches break. So after 20, 30 years, basically all the watches that were in this town, everybody had them, but they're all broken. So the town then split. Some people just took the watch and threw in the garbage. Okay. Other people, no, they didn't throw in the garbage. They kept it with them. They cleaned it, and they kept it going. They kept it as clean as possible, even though they were broken. Until one day, many years later, that rich person returned to the town and fixed all the watches of those people that kept them. But those people that threw out their watches, no more watches for them, and they had no way to tell time. It's a weird story, but the Rizhiner said the following. He said it's the same thing with davening. Hashem gave us the gift of davening. Hashem gave us the gift to beseech Him, in a passionate way. Not always does a person feel that passion. But a person shouldn't throw it away when you don't feel it. You got to keep it going. You got to keep davening. You got to keep trying. Because eventually, when the time comes where your heart is opened, you're not going to be foreign to davening anymore. If a person throws away the watch, throws away davening when he doesn't feel like it, then even when the time comes for the passion to come back, you're not going to be in the mindset to daven. When a person keeps it going, he keeps the momentum, he davens 3 times a day, he does what he has to do, even if he doesn't feel it, then when the time comes for Hashem to open the light and to give him some sense of chizuk, some sense of spiritual life, he'll be able to harness that energy into daven and to serve Hashem properly. That's what it means. That's what it means to be a Jew. So we should be zoicha soon. When we learn this Parshat of Lech Lecha, we have to remember that Hashem is talking to each and every one of us. Avram Avinu was our father, and we're part of his family. And we're part of his, everything he went through, we're going through just as much. And a person has to remember that and be mechazik himself that Avram Avinu was able to do it, so can we. And if we take this to heart and we daven properly and we serve Hashem with passionate fire that davka comes from our chesroinus, we'll be able to come very soon to greet the face of Mashiach and be counted amongst those that accomplished in both Torah and tefillah b'meher v'yameinu. Amen.